Friedrich Adler is a troubling figure, an ever-recurring tertium quid, a third position in what historically were always debates between two sides. We are used to staging them as these two-part Manichaean struggles, but Adler appears infuriatingly to stand for the right to the left and defensively left to the right. He stood with what was called clear-sighted sanity to some and obsessive insanity to others, the best, most efficient party official and dutiful son, but also the schismatic, patricidal opponent of the ameliorist Austrian socialist establishment that his father had devoted his life to building. Fritz was a hero to the revolutionaries Lenin and Trotsky at the beginning, and then rescuer to the Second International, then marching alone with the Second and a Half International into the political night. From his cell block came Ernst Mach's conquest of mechanical materialism that began with an homage to Mach, grappled with Mach's sworn enemy Planck, and then pulled back from both, neither anthropocentric relativist nor transhumanly absolutist. Finally, prison author of a book litigating between his old friend Einstein's work and that of Lorentz, and yet one that ends up discarding both positions. Adler saw himself as the discoverer of the fatal flaw in the relativisms of both Einstein and Mach. Here was the pacifist killer, the socialist individualist, the sideways gear in the motor of modernity. How to make sense of this wrongness in the proportion? Some have tried to find a psychodynamic explanation, a task in a certain sense launched by Friedrich Adler's psychiatrist father long before Fritz gunned down Count Sturg. Melancholia, mania, fears of a nervous collapse. All these figure in the letters between son and father. One psychohistorical account, much later, makes Fritz Adler's gunshots into an attempt to impress his father. That seems on the face of it unlikely, given the lifetime Victor Adler had devoted to working within the Austro-Hungarian establishment. A step up from that account might be to track the event as symbolic as well as a real killing. Even better, an account that took the fundamental cycle of ambivalence through his many relations of attachment and rebellion, retainer and regicide, Fritz's deep friendship and fury with Einstein, with filial devotion and upending of Mach, his ferocious devotion to the party and his denunciation of it, all double actions of attraction and repulsion, need and hate. But even if corrected, refined, made more multivalent, the reductively psychological account won't do. It won't do for Adler, and it won't do for Einstein. Not because there is nothing to psychological explanations, but because here, in this instance, they are too broad, too unmatched to the phenomena we want to understand. In Adler's case, the post hoc psychopathologizers are actually joining after the fact one side in the 1917 trial, that of the yellow press struggling to depoliticize Adler's act. Reductive psychohistories too crudely make a bilayer system of the real, that is to say the psychological, and the symbolic, physics, philosophy, politics. Another possibility, we could take politics as our base, either the explicit politics that Friedrich Adler held or the politics which he was a part of but beyond his control. Then we could see his commitment to Machism as an expression of his fundamental Austro-Marxism, a stance he had taken, according to his biographers, and even according to himself sometimes, since late childhood, growing up as he did in the heart of the movement. His killing of Sturg, his philosophy, his commitment to a relativity of physics, all could be seen as part of his underlying politics. Or we could flip the account a third way. Perhaps Adler's philosophical beliefs are the ground, the deepest lying explanation to the necessary inclusion of sensory data at the beginning of our all-too-human knowledge and beliefs. Trained by Mach, we could make Adler's politics and physics an epiphenomenal description of underlying views about how we secure knowledge. None of these true ground accounts, a true ground of psychology, a true ground of politics, a true ground of philosophy, ring right to me. Much as we might like to solve Friedrich Adler by classing him within familiar dichotomous categories, maybe we should not. Maybe this strange, disquieting cipher of a figure helps us not so much by his typicality, but as a disturbing and forgotten, though once hugely famous doppelganger to Einstein, an exemplar of non-typicality in a profoundly untypical moment of the 20th century. Maybe Adler could remind us of the limits of our categories, and in so doing, help us understand a bit better who Einstein was by setting him in relief. After all, Einstein too drew heavily on Mach. Einstein too drew on his nemeses, Boltzmann and Planck. Einstein too sympathized both with the assassin and took pleasure in his friendship with the Queen Mother Elizabeth of Belgium and enjoyed cordial exchanges with Franklin Roosevelt. Einstein too wanted a physics of relative lengths and times, but also absolute speed of light and one set of physical laws for the universe. In these tensions lie a breakdown of comforting structures of A against B. Of course, Einstein won his relativity battles and left to us a legacy unmatched in the entire history of science. True, too, Friedrich Adler lost his wars for an alternative to left and right politics in pre-World War II Austria, for an alternative to relativism and absolutism in philosophy, for a relativistic path to a privileged frame of reference. Both Adler and Einstein challenged familiar splits. If these now strange crossing points between philosophy, physics, and politics presses us to rethink the tumultuous years of the 20th century outside simple dichotomies, that might be a last shot from the assassin of relativity.